Alright, so I've actually taped my planner down so that it doesn't move around, so we're all ready to go. So for today's video, I'm going to be taking you guys through my monthly planning routine, and my monthly planning routine is all written out in my notebook right here. I highly recommend writing out any routine that you're trying to do, whether it's a weekly planning routine, a morning routine, bedtime routine, whatever you're doing. I think it helps a lot to just have it written out on a piece of paper, not only so that you can refer to it, but so that it feels more concrete. So we're just gonna get right into it. The first step of my monthly planning routine is to fill out my monthly review. So I flip back to my July pages, where I have on the left side some planning that I did, and then on the right side is this page that I left blank for reviewing how July went. So first I start with what went well this month. And so here I'll write things that I accomplished, habits that I kept up with, just anything that I'm proud of that makes me look back at July and think that was a good month. So one thing I'm going to write down right away for sure is that I got second place in my event at FBLA Nationals, which was like the highlight of my month. I traveled alone for the very first time and survived. It was kind of a weird month because for about half of it I was away from home, so this is probably going to look a little bit different than it normally does, but I think it's still important to do a review like this. So I'm just going to finish filling this out real quick. One thing that helps me is that I also like to do this like what went well and what could have gone better type thing every week, and so I do that on a little post-it for every weekly spread that I have, and so I like to look back at those to get ideas for what to write in the monthly section. Alright, I think that's good. I've written down 11, which is about normally what I write. And then the next step is to write down what could have gone better this month. And I do like to say what could have gone better instead of what went poorly, just because it's more positive. I like to look at these as ways to improve and not things to be upset at myself about. So again, looking back at my weekly post-it helps with this, but also just kind of trying to remember how the month went. I also like to look at my habit tracking app on my phone to see how my habits went, because oftentimes that's something that went well or didn't go well. Alright, once I've written down some things that could have gone better, I usually do about 5 or 6 like I did this time. I like to write down 3 lessons that I learned that month. I mean, I think we're all constantly learning a lot of lessons, but it's good to just recap the main things that you want to take away from the month. I like to look back at my journal for this. That helps a lot. And I'm not going to go through every little thing that I write down here because I am going to do a July recap video, and so I'll talk about what I'm writing, but for now I just want to go through my process. Okay, so the next step is to take a look at whether or not I achieved the goals that I set for myself at the beginning of the month. And so I'll either just write like, yes, I achieved it, and kind of give myself a pat on the back for that, or I'll write down that I didn't and kind of try to see why. I do this on the back side of the calendar page, so I just make a page and I title it Planning. The first thing I do is I write down 3 goals that I have for the month, and to help me do this, I like to look at my 2018 goals, or looking at goals that you had for past months and kind of trying to build onto those. Next, I choose one habit to focus on. Obviously, I'm always tracking all of my habits, but I like to just choose one for the month and really put a lot of effort into making sure that I do it as much as I can. And this month, I think I'll focus on doing meditation every day. I think it's really important to always be learning and trying to improve ourselves. So every month I choose one course to focus on and one book to read. I usually keep some ideas for that in my notes app on my phone, so I just look back at that. Alright, then I flip back to my calendar for the month. And usually when I'm writing events in that are happening far in the future, I don't highlight them, but once I get to that month, then I like to make sure that everything is color-coded. Sometimes I also just write things in with pencil, so I just erase that and write it in with pen. Again, because this is taped down, it's kind of hard to write. Normally I would just take out the pages because these are disc bound, but it's okay, I'll manage. I also like to go over the days of the week with a Tombow brush pen. Along the side here, I have a little kind of sidebar for writing in little weekly reminders. So like sometimes we know that there's something we need to do, but all we know is kind of the general time of the month that we'll need to do it. We don't know the exact day, So that's when I like to write things here, and then when I'm doing my weekly planning, I can just take that information and schedule it in. So as I'm doing my monthly planning, I'll just add anything in if I remember it. Alright, then because I think it's always important to be looking at the positive side, so what can we look forward to this month? I write down 3 things that I'm excited for in August. I think once I edit this video, I'll just have some blurred out things, not because anything I write in here is bad, but because I just want to keep hidden like some names of people or organizations that I'm involved with. I assure you nothing that I'm blurring out is important to see. It's just for the sake of privacy. I choose an affirmation for the month. So this is just going to be a saying that's kind of currently resonating with me and I want to keep in mind in the upcoming month. Just as an example, my affirmation in July was something I read in my book that I was reading last month, Tribe of Mentors. I don't remember which interview this was from, but I'll add it in. They said macro patience, micro speed, just meaning that you should stop worrying so much about the future and about making really big plans, but try looking more at the next few days and how can you make the next few days, the next few hours even, the best that you can make them. I go over these with some color just to kind of brighten this page up. I've mentioned these in a lot of videos, but I use the zebra mild liners, which are amazing. And then on the next side, I'll just set up my review page in advance, but as I mentioned before, I keep that blank until the end of the month. So one step I forgot to mention to you guys is that I have to set up my weekly pages. So I basically just like draw lines down the page and fill in the days of the week and the date numbers. So technically this review should have gone on the back of one of these pages, but it honestly doesn't really matter. So I like to just tear out a previous page and use that as a template. So yeah, as I'm making these, I'll just go over a few of my like finishing points. Once you do your monthly planning page, you have to make sure that you're actually looking back at it for it to be effective. So I recommend looking back at that page like every morning and evening when you're doing your planning. Also, especially when you're doing your weekly planning, because that's when you can schedule in time to actually work towards those goals that you set for yourself, or like schedule in time to read the book that you wanted to read or work on the course that you wanted to complete. The best planning isn't going to do anything for you if you don't put it into action. Always make sure that you're scheduling in some downtime, especially social time. So make sure that you're scheduling in time to spend with friends and family. Also, when it comes to monthly planning, just try to have fun with the process. I don't decorate my planner a ton, but as you saw, I like to use my Tombow brush pens and then my zebra mild liners. I think it's important that it looks pretty because it just makes you enjoy the process more and be more willing to look back at it in the future. Also, try and make it neat because there's nothing more annoying than when your planner is barely legible. That'll definitely make you unlikely to use it. So that's the end of my monthly planning process. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope that this has inspired you, given you some tips for your own planning. Don't feel like you have to do this 100% the way that I do it, because everyone needs a different process and that's totally fine. Just find what works for you, and the important thing is that you stick with that. So with that, I'm going to end this video, and until next time, until my next video, bye!